Can we trust anybody catching passes from Davis Mills? That's the decision we're going to have to make today on the Run the Sims podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wilde. This is brought to you by RunTheSims.com, and we are discussing Thursday night showdown. This week, we've got the Carolina Panthers going to Houston. Houston is home underdogs. Houston is actually +8. They've been actually very competitive team so far this year. I've been thoroughly impressed considering they have one of the worst rosters in the last decade. Since I've been playing fantasy football, I can't remember a worse roster. I think they have 40 new faces in the building this year, including a new head coach. So I thought that a 0-17, the first 0-17 ever, was going to be viable, but Houston already got a W against Jacksonville, and they looked pretty good. Tyrod looked pretty good, so very unfortunate that the first injury we're going to have to discuss today is Tyrod Taylor, who has been declared out already with the hamstring injury. He's actually been put on IR, which puts him out at least 3 games. Super unfortunate for him. Every time he plays, he looks great. Well, not great, but he looks pretty dang good, and he gets injured. It's actually very unfortunate. So now we've got Davis Mills to talk about. Forward thinking on the show. We've also got Nico Collins with an injury. He's been placed on injury reserve, so he will not be playing. That's going to give us a lot of salary relief like Danny Amendola. But wait, Danny Amendola is also hurt. Amendola has been ruled out heading into week 3 versus the Panthers. So now we're dumpster diving. Anthony Miller has been a healthy scratch for a while now. He's probably going to be playing. I think he's a talented player. I believe he was a second-round pick in the NFL draft from the Bears, second or third, maybe third. So there was talent to be had. Also, like Chris Conley in his first year away from the Chiefs. I wouldn't mind that either. So we've got Sam Darnold at the top here. He's going to be 11,200. He's had a pretty solid start to the year. He's going to be one of the first people we talk about on this slate because we have one quarterback that's Sam Darnold, who's looking okay, and then we have Davis Mills. So, okay, how are we going to capitalize on that, right? So let's go over to Run the Sims, analyze our playbook. And once this spits out, we're going to talk about our top play of the week, which is, of course, going to be Christian McCaffrey. You guys didn't need this show for me to tell you that. So Christian McCaffrey is appearing in 88% of total lineups. That's the highest this year by far. He's appearing at 44% captain, highest this year by far. So fade at your own risk. Figure out how to get contrarian elsewhere. Maybe we're going to have some Texans on slots run back with Christian McCaffrey captain. That's probably going to be relatively contrarian. So let's keep going down the list. Just remember Christian McCaffrey, 88% of our optimal lineups, 44% in the captain. Sam Darnold's appearing in 62% of the optimal lineups. He's appearing in captain only 7.96% of the time. Davis Mills is appearing in captain actually a good bit more than Sam Darnold, relatively speaking. I mean, it's only 1%, but it's the difference between Davis Mills and Sam Darnold. So Davis Mills is appearing in 50% of the lineups as a flex and 8% as a captain. Brandin Cooks is appearing in 11.94% in the captain spot. That's also very respectable because after that, you've got 3% Anthony Miller, 2% Chris Conley, 5% Robby Anderson, 5% DJ Moore, 3% Mark Ingram. So you've got 4 players at the top in Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold, Davis Mills, and Brandin Cooks, close to 10%, and then a bunch of 5s, 3s, 2s, 0s. So we're probably going to predicate our lineups around those 4 in the captain spot and see how we can get contrarian elsewhere because it's going to be a tough slate. Now, keep in mind, these games that nobody are excited about is really where you can get really strange, and you're going to see things like a Chris Conley lineup winning or a Robby Anderson after 2 disappointing weeks or a Terrace Marshall lineup end up crushing because it's just going to be a weird game and nobody's interested and the total's low. And by the way, the total is 43.5. I missed that one at the beginning. So very low total. Of course, the running back that's favored by 8, that's the best in the league, is going to be in an incredible amount of our lineups. So let's go over to our custom lineups here. We've got a Davis Mills captain with a frequency of 35, very high, and we don't have a tie for highest frequency this week. So Davis Mills at captain, Brandin Cooks in the flex, Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold, Chris Conley, Anthony Miller. It's a very contrarian lineup for our first build, and I kind of love it. So Davis Mills is someone I'm going to be targeting a lot at captain because nobody's going to want to do it because, frankly, he's just not very good. And that's okay. He wasn't drafted super high. Probably not going to be the franchise quarterback, but the team in a huge rebuild took a shot at quarterback behind Tyrod Taylor because they didn't know what was going to happen with Deshaun Watson. So there's a lot of Davis Mills hate, and I don't know if all of it's warranted. I think it's something that we could capitalize on. So this is huge for our frequency of 35, our highest frequency, because it's also a contrarian lineup that we can play in mid to even large field tournaments. I mean, you have a Davis Mills triple stack at your captain spot, a running back and his quarterback. Granted, they're going to be the two highest owned players on the slate, but they're paired together without any DJ Moore, any Robby Anderson, no Terrace Marshall, not even any Dan Arnold. So I love that. The next lineup, of course, is going to be a Christian McCaffrey lineup. This is a frequency of 29, so 6 less times this one out of 10,000. Christian McCaffrey's at captain, Anthony Miller, Brandin Cooks, Robby Anderson, Chris Conley, Davis Mills. So it's a Christian McCaffrey and Robby Anderson lineup with no Sam Darnold. That's actually going to be a little bit contrarian as well, just 2 pass catchers from the favored team without their quarterback. Don't mind that either if you have to play Christian McCaffrey. I think one way you're going to be able to get weird with Christian McCaffrey is going to be not playing Sam Darnold and playing one of the pass catchers, whether it be DJ Moore. Terrace Marshall is going to be the least owned, I'm sure. We don't have our projections up yet. This is Wednesday night, so we will have our ownership projections up tomorrow. And when they come out, I'm pretty sure that Terrace Marshall is going to be the lowest owned. I don't mind stacking Christian McCaffrey a captain with whoever the lowest owned Panthers receiver is, and then running the rest with whatever Texans you fit in. But I would definitely include Brandin Cooks and Davis Mills. So Christian McCaffrey captain with Robby Anderson might be the lowest owned actually because of price. And then Davis Mills, Anthony Miller, Chris Conley, Brandin Cooks, something like that. So we'll go down. Let's look at one more because I want to talk about one that's not a big 4 captain lineup. So Chris Conley and the captain, run back with flex of Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold, Terrace Marshall, Brandin Cooks, Davis Mills. Don't mind this one either. I talked about it last show. I don't really go 3x3 very often. I just think people naturally gravitate towards 3x3 builds. If it's contrarian elsewhere, if it's got a good pivot off of a high price player, like if you played Aaron Jones instead of Devontae Adams in a 3x3 lineup, okay, that's fine. You got your ownership percentage somewhere else. So let's go over to DraftKings and let's try to build the lineup that I was just talking about. So we're going to have Christian McCaffrey and captain. For now, let's put Terrace Marshall and assume that he's going to be the lowest owned Panthers wide receiver. We're going to bypass Sam Darnold, DJ Moore. We're going to put in Brandin Cooks. We're going to put in Davis Mills. We're going to have 2 spots left. Scroll down a little bit. Chris Conley is only 1,600. That's amazing. And then we have 5.9 left. That leaves us Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson, Dan Arnold. You could roll the dice in tournaments on one of these running backs. All 3 of them have been involved. All 3 of them have scored touchdowns. The 3 I'm speaking of are Mark Ingram, Mark Ingram, David Johnson, and Phillip Lindsay. All 3 of them have produced actually reasonably well. So if you wanted to roll the dice on one of them, I wouldn't mind putting Phillip Lindsay in. I don't think it's super important to stack Davis Mills with 3 pass catching options because I think you're already going to be relatively contrarian with just 2 pass catching options. I don't think people are going to be super excited about playing Davis Mills. He's probably going to rival the Jared Goff ownership we had a couple slates ago. And I believe Jared Goff came in at like 35%. So pretty much a position player, like a good position player ownership rather than, when you have Patrick Mahomes playing against Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson came in at like 60%. And that's what you'll see from a good quarterback or in a good game environment. So in a bad game environment with a bad quarterback, we'll probably see 20, 25% Davis Mills. So if you double stack him, you've got plenty of leverage. You're fine clicking Phillip Lindsay here. The only problem is that only leaves you $100 left on the table, and that's probably going to be relatively popular. So if you want to actually just click on David Johnson and leave $500 on the table just because most people clicked Phillip Lindsay, something I'll talk about every slate all year. Build a lineup with one player. So, for example, when we did the Tampa Bay, I said build a lineup with Leonard Fournette and then take Leonard Fournette out and put in Ronald Jones because everybody clicked on Leonard Fournette in that lineup. So you might see yourself in a field of right on top of 500 people in the tournament standings because you have the exact same lineup as them, except for you had Ronald Jones instead of Leonard Fournette. So you are, 2 points above them just from that 1v1 because you left that money off the table. So that's a good way to build it. You built the optimal with a 1v1. Another thing that you could do here is like maybe one of the kickers if you think it's going to be ugly, but I'm not a kicker and tournament kind of person. I just think the upside's not there. If I can put a wide receiver there that can score an 80-yard touchdown, then I'm usually going to do that rather than playing just like one of the kickers, even in a game environment like this. Another thing that you can do is take Christian McCaffrey out of here, put Davis Mills at captain. So Davis Mills at captain, Christian McCaffrey in the flex. I'm probably going to have 100. It's in a lot of games, and a lot of slates, it's worth fading a player like it was worth fading Devontae Adams. Even not even looking at hindsight, and Devontae Adams actually did great, and he ended up being in the winning lineup. So it's not like anybody crushed by fading Devontae Adams, but prior to the game, it was a smart decision in large field tournaments to play Aaron Jones and not play Devontae Adams or double stack Rodgers with MVS and Randall Cobb or MVS and Lazard and not play Adams because Adams was going to be so incredibly high owned. So in a lot of slates, it is worth it, especially if you're playing 20 max, playing 150 max, to have a good handful of lineups that do not have the player that is going to be on every single roster. Even if you're just playing those because Christian McCaffrey could get hurt in large field. I mean, somebody won $1 million with Marcus Mariota last year because Derek Carr got hurt. So it's not that uncommon in huge field tournaments to do something like that. But in this instance, you don't necessarily need CMC to get hurt as much as you just need these low price guys to like absolutely smash, or CMC has a 20-point game and DJ Moore outscores them. You really probably just need your 1-for-1 to outscore them. Like DJ Moore or Robby Anderson are probably prime candidates to potentially outscore CMC, but they'd have to have like blow up games. So my point is I'm going to have CMC in every lineup. If you're not going to have him in every lineup, then you should have him in like half your lineups. You shouldn't just do maybe one or two without CMC, because then those lineups have to be the absolute best possible lineups on every single spot has to be the optimal spot. If you paid for Christian McCaffrey, you might as well just play Christian McCaffrey at 88% ownership and pretend that we're playing a 5-person showdown slate instead of a 6-person showdown slate. So all that to say, I'm going to put Davis Mills at captain, and I'm going to swap Christian McCaffrey into the flex here. That's going to leave me 3,000 on the table, and we're going to see if we can upgrade from David Johnson. That gets us up to Robby Anderson, gets us up to Mark Ingram. I don't see much difference between David Johnson and Mark Ingram, because David Johnson has been getting a ton of the receiving work. So even though he hasn't really outscored Mark Ingram on the year in a game where they're minus or +8, David Johnson could actually see his most work of the year, and people are going to naturally gravitate towards Ingram. I almost guarantee that Ingram's going to have the most ownership, and then Phillip Lindsay second and David Johnson third. But this game environment actually goes best for David Johnson. So it's a good opportunity to play David Johnson when he's going to be lowest owned out of the 3 backs. So I don't mind keeping David Johnson here. What I might do here is actually just swap in DJ Moore and see if there's a punt play down here. Anthony Miller at 1,000. So there we go. So Davis Mills captain, Brandin Cooks, Chris Conley, Anthony Miller, DJ Moore, and Christian McCaffrey. So if you get if Sam Darnold gets all of his points from DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey, here you go. This lineup succeeds. If you just have Christian, I mean, you could just run 150 Christian McCaffrey captain lineups this week, and I actually would not fault you one bit. It just depends how contrarian you can get out of that. There's only so many options this week. I guess my best bet is to embrace the volatility in the Houston Texans wide receiver room, because we have absolutely no idea what Anthony Miller is going to do. We have no idea how much involvement they're going to get from, like, Andre Roberts is going to get some run. So if you want to just embrace that volatility and basically build pretty much one lineup and cycle through as many weird Texan stacks as you can, I wouldn't hate if you did a bunch of basically Christian McCaffrey captain, cycle through the 3 wide receivers for the Panthers, don't play Sam Darnold, and just get as weird as you possibly can on the Texan side. And that is a totally viable option on a slate that's going to be this strange. So let's go back over here. Just make sure that when you get your optimal results tomorrow, you look at the ownership projections. It's actually going to be over here on your input. So projected own, projected captain ownership. All of those are zeros right now. Ownership is going to be massive. I mean, I'm just going to play basically whoever's going to be least owned out of the Texans backfield. I'm going to play whoever's least owned of the Texans wide receiver punts. The last thing we'll talk about today is the projections. Of course, Christian McCaffrey is projected for a whopping 28.2. Yes, that is median projection. That is not on ceiling. That is median projection, projected for almost 30 points. Sam Darnold projected almost 10 points less at 19. Brandin Cooks projected for 3 points less at 16. Davis Mills and Brandin Cooks are both projected for 16. So that's a stack that is going to be the staple of my builds. And then you're going to have DJ Moore at 13, Robby Anderson at 11, Mark Ingram at 10, and then a conglomerate of 7. So Anthony Miller, Chris Conley, Terrace Marshall, David Johnson, Zane Gonzalez, Joe Sly, Panthers, all within that 7 range. So that's why you're just going to cycle through as many of those as you can. All the way down here, we've got like Pharaoh Brown projected for 5. That's actually decent. Dan Arnold projected for 5. Not so great. His price is way too high. I don't think I will play him in even getting contrarian. I'm not going to play Dan Arnold if he crushes me for 3 touchdowns tomorrow. Sorry, guys, but there's nothing that's going to make me press Dan Arnold tomorrow. And then if you want to play like a complete blowout, you could play Christian McCaffrey lineups with Chuba Hubbard and get contrarian. And you could even play Christian McCaffrey lineup or Chuba Hubbard lineups without Christian McCaffrey. But in that case, basically your only scenario for success is other Panthers scoring touchdowns before Christian McCaffrey can. And then Chuba Hubbard gets to ice the game, which doesn't happen as often as we like to think it happens. So something I'll mention a lot, but I just want to caveat that throughout the year, you're going to hear me say, yeah, you can play a couple lineups with the relief pitcher running back, but that almost never happens. It's more of a narrative type thing. So that's going to do it for today's Run the Sims podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck tomorrow. I will catch you all next time. Peace.